Hey there and welcome back to Baldur's Gate 3. My name is Pete and today we complete another episode of this honor mode walkthrough with our Dark Urge Halfling Bard Sylvia Hairyfoot. Last time we left off after experiencing more of the Goblin party. Eventually though, you can see it in the background, we poisoned their booze and slaughtered them all. And to be honest, that probably wasn't even the most exciting thing in that episode. After returning to camp for a long rest, Lae'zel confronted us with a knife to the throat, and a mysterious Dream Guardian visited us in our sleep. That Dream Guardian told us that they are the one preventing our transformation into a Mind Flayer. They also encouraged us to use our illithid powers and to consume the tadpoles that we found along the way. And they did not only pay a visit to Sylvia, but also to our other party members. Speaking of which, as you can see, we have 2 members in our party today who have not yet leveled up to level 5. However, before we take care of that, let us cast a few spells with Wyll, as leveling up will have him regain those used spell slots, so we won't need to waste a short rest. The Armor of Shadow's Eldritch Invocation is free to use and increases his AC by 3. Then we spend his first spell slot on Armor of Agathis for those sweet temporary HP. And finally we summon the Shadow Blade and also make it our pact weapon. And with that, Wyll is now officially out of Warlock spell slots, but only for a brief moment, as we will now advance him to level 5. At level 5, he gains an extra attack as part of his Pact of the Blade, and he also unlocks level 3 spell slots. The spells he can choose from here include a few pretty powerful ones, like Counterspell or Fireball, but let's keep things unique and give him Hunger of Hadar, an AoE attack with a pretty big radius, inside of which all creatures are blinded and take damage at the beginning and at the end of their turn. Since the entire area is also classified as difficult terrain, it's not quite that easy to get out of it, which means the spell has a good chance of dealing both types of damage. For our third Eldritch Invocation, we then pick Repelling Blast. This allows Wyll's Eldritch Blast to push creatures, very useful to knock them off ledges or to strategically reposition them. We are also going to replace a spell at this point, and we are getting rid of Misty Step. Don't worry though, we'll find another source for casting it very soon. And we are replacing it, surprise surprise, with Fireball. Yes, I know, it is perhaps a bit boring, but Wyll has made his pact with Mizora, who is classified as a fiend, and as a resident of the Nine Hells, this gives him a lovely infernal touch. Up next then we have Karlach, who as a barbarian does not get much at level 5, but she also doesn't need to. The extra attack is really all we're looking for with her at this point. An increase to her movement speed is a lovely bonus on top, and as a Zariel Tiefling she now learns Branding Smite, a bonus of 2d6 radiant damage on top of her regular attack damage. And there we are, ready to roll, and as you can see, Wyll has regained all of his spell slots, and they are now level 3 spell slots. So let's get moving, pick some dagger root by the entrance here, and then we enter the Shattered Sanctum.
Bloody racket!
Oh, come on now. They're just having a bit of fun.
Aye, so much fun that those thieves almost got past.
We got 'em now, eh? And once the whelp starts singing, we'll know who sent 'em.
Aye, might be we'll pay him a visit in return. That'll be some real fun.
Right, so the goblins in here completely oblivious to the events outside, and Sazza is also still patiently waiting for us.
Oi! Ain't no party in here.
Shut it, Graw. Olak cleared us. Got a visitor for the drow, I do.
My arse. What's a true soul want with any mate of yours?
Private business, that is. Raiding business. But if anyone wants a piss pot guarded, we'll call.
Just get your friend branded proper. Right, Sazza? Got better things to do than...
No, you don't. Come on, then.
And with that, she runs off, and as we set off to follow, Shadowheart has something to say.
Selûne. As if mingling with a horde of goblins wasn't bad enough. Let's do what we have to do, then get out of here.
She references the fact that we are indeed inside a former temple to Selûne, who, as you may recall, is the polar opposite to Shah, the goddess that she has devoted her life to.
Quite the understatement, but yes. Let's not linger in this place any more than necessary.
Right, not exactly sure we can accommodate that request, as we now speak to all the goblins.
Being boozing won't make the branding go any easier. I tried.
Forgive the reception, eh, mate? Had some intruders a while back, can't be too careful.
Now, the goblins outside did not know anything about Halcyon. Maybe these ones are a bit more in the loop.
A druid? Can't be sure. Got one of them chained up below, though. Just follow the hollowing.
Let's also not forget to climb up the ladder here.
Those thieves almost got
I
past.
thought you was my replacement, but no. I bet Merg has drunk herself stupid.
And taking a few steps into a southern direction here gets us to a well-hidden chest, which sadly only contains a torch. So, back down and up on the other side we go.
This ain't the party, mate. No fooling around. Get back down.
And once again, we do not want to follow that request just yet, as we can find a dragon egg mushroom up here.
Oh, smell that meat sizzling. Can't tell if it's the branding or the party. Making me bloody hungry either way.
It's good you ain't causing trouble. Boss means business now he's got the absolute in his ear.
Alright, and that's all this entrance party has to say to us. We'll leave them alive, at least for now, and can now enter the home of Goblin Priestess Gut.
Do you hear the Absolute's voice? Do you feel her inside you?
I only hear her through you, priestess.
That's because she chose me. You're not worthy yet.
Yeah, and the one thing I learned down there, don't matter if you're a slave or a king, Drow will pluck out your eyes if you look at them wrong.
Are you ready for the Absolute's mark on your flesh?
Yeah, and then I'll hear her voice.
You're too feeble. Her voice is a blade. It'd cut your brain to bits. The brand marks your flesh. Her voice purifies your mind.
The Absolute loves us.
She loves me. You lot ain't proved yourselves yet. None of you are worthy. Such a disappointment.
How do we get closer to her?
Do what us true souls command. Spill the blood of non-believers. Your flesh is marked. The Absolute is upon ya. But you're not ready to become true souls yet. Absolute's looking out for us now.
So, after watching Priestess Gut put the Absolute's mark on the flesh of several of her goblins, she is now free to speak to us and to potentially do us the same favor. Now, from a very strict role-playing perspective, it probably doesn't make too much sense to accept this brand, but it actually unlocks a few unique bonuses, item interactions, and conversation options, so we'll have Sylvia get it. Mechanically speaking, there aren't really any downsides to doing so.
Ugh, smells like burnt flesh in here.
Now here's somebody special. The Absolute has touched you, hasn't she? Priestess Gut needs to touch you too. Hold out your arm so I can mark your flesh.
A priestess. One of the leaders, no doubt about it. Let's make her squeal.
What's that? Tell your friend to keep quiet, or he'll lose his good eye.
Now, while we will eventually take care of Guts one way or another, for now it's probably best if we show ourselves cooperative.
Ready for the fire, are ya?
And before we get ourselves branded, let's ask what this does exactly and why we should do it.
Lets the faithful recognize one another quick sharp. That way nobody'll mess with ya. And it's charged with magic. Ordinary slobs can't see it, only us that follow the Absolute. You ready? Brace yourself, this'll sting.
Now, normally, accepting the brand will net you a loss of approval from Shadowheart. Dark Urge characters, however, have this uniquely deranged dialogue option at the top here, which will prevent any approval changes. By the way, for most of what comes next with Priestess Gut, you don't actually need to have the brand. She is perfectly willing to speak to you afterwards, even if you refuse it.
Hold still.
As pain muddles your thoughts, your minds become entangled. A familiar sensation. She too carries a parasite. Darkness seems to swallow the temple, leaving you with a vision of the Goblin Priestess, receiving instruction from a handsome young man, one of the chosen. The vision dissolves away. You stand before the Goblin Priestess in the temple once again.
Right, not entirely surprising. She is, after all, not the first true soul we encounter with a tadpole in her mind. Let's push deeper to perhaps find out more.
Her faith floods into you, a tide of shuddering ecstasy. Her tadpole nestles within that mania, secure, hidden.
I feel you in there, digging around. Works both ways. And I saw some weird shadows swimming around in your head just now. Maybe I can help with that. Us true souls gotta look out for one another.
Right, and this is what she always offers, regardless of whether or not you took the brand. All dialogue options here lead to the same outcome, but let's not reveal the entire story just yet and just ask for her help.
With the Absolute's will, I can fix anything. Let's deal with this in my chapel. It's private. Don't want this lot interfering with true soul business.
Oi! Priestess! We want the mark!
Yeah, ain't we good enough for the Absolute?
And with the goblins not entirely happy about it, we can now follow Priestess Gut into her private quarters to hopefully learn more about this blind passenger inside our head.
Oi, come here. I ain't waiting around. Ready to clear your head?
Now, if you want to kill Priestess Gut without learning whether or not she can actually help you, this right here marks the perfect opportunity, as she is alone and fairly isolated. However, this is a completionist playthrough, and we very much want to find out what she can do. First of all, though, let's try to learn a bit more about the procedure.
Whatever the Absolute tells me to. Don't worry, she loves you. I can tell.
Well, to be honest, that doesn't sound entirely convincing, but we will go through with it anyway.
Don't want a crowd of gawpers. Everybody else needs to leave.
Once again, that doesn't exactly alleviate any suspicions we might have, but we'll play along. Once the rest of the party is outside, we can speak to Gut again.
Ready to clear your head?
And with that, let's get to it.
Smart. All you need to do is open yourself to the Absolute. And I'll do the rest. Don't want anyone peeping on private matters, so... There we go. Secret and safe. Well, secret.
Psionic feelers creep across your mind, like a pickpocket's fingers seeking flaws in fabric.
Right, so it looks like Gut is using our tadpole connection to rummage around in our head for a change, and we actually also want to allow her to keep doing so. After all, she is trying to help us, or at least so she says.
Sifting deeper, she sees the mind flayer holding a wriggling tadpole to your eye. And then the vision lurches, and you are looking through her eyes as a tadpole squirms into her skull.
Hells! We need to fish that thing out before it eats any important parts of your brain.
Now, before we give her free rein to continue with the procedure, how about we bring up the fact that we are most likely not the only one in this room with a parasite in our brain.
No. It's messing with your brain. You're seeing things, probably hearing voices too, yeah?
Now, while this may seem like a rather clumsy excuse at first, she does have a point, and since we can't follow up on the topic anyway, we might as well get on with it.
Don't you worry. I've got everything I need to fix you. Might get a bit messy, though.
At this point, we can once more inquire what exactly she's planning to do to us, although the answer is not entirely surprising.
It involves you putting your trust in the Absolute. Simple.
Right, to be honest, it doesn't sound like she's got any idea what to do, but then again, this Absolute sounds pretty powerful.
You won't regret this. Being a true soul, you know the Absolute don't like to touch nothing unclean. So drink this. It'll purify ya.
Now, we fail the Arcana check here to identify the potion. To get the most out of this encounter though, I recommend drinking it no matter what, and failing this check also unlocks the dialogue option here to ask about the brew.
It's a liquid blessing. It'll cleanse you. And it tastes better than that rot gut at the party.
Right, so against all of our suspicions, let's down the potion. I promise we wouldn't be doing this if the result wasn't worth it.
Sweet dreams. I'll see your ugly mug on the other side. Wakey, wakey. Don't bother struggling. You ain't going nowhere. The Absolute wants to know all about that critter in your head. So start talking.
Well, 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 who could have seen that coming? And since we don't really have any information to share that she doesn't already know, let us perhaps remind her that she is locked in here with the Dark Urge, and let us also quickly take notes of a big ogre patrolling in the background.
You'll pay for talking back. Can't beat you too hard, though. Gotta keep you alive for what comes next.
Now at this point, there is no longer any need for cooperation, so let us once again confront her with the truth. We both have tadpoles, so whatever happens to us will also happen to her.
Stop trying to confuse me. You're a liar. Everything's clear since the Absolute chose me. You're the one that's broken. Do you even know who you are anymore?
And we have a few rather flavorful options to choose from here. It feels a bit overly dramatic to call ourselves the Armageddon Watcher though, and who knows, perhaps we can squeeze a bit more information out of her by mentioning our illithid powers, powers that Guts may or may not have herself.
Powers? No, they're delusions that things eat in your brain. It's gonna start eating your flesh too, changing you. And eventually your skull will split and you'll cough up a mess of tentacles.
Now instead of showing ourselves defiant, let us ask her to heal us once more, if only to reveal her true motivation for capturing us.
Stop it! Why would I want to do that? I'm gonna keep you here so I can see every gory detail and hear every whimper and scream.
Right, I think this is the point where we can indulge in our distaste for her a bit. Like I said earlier, killing her will eventually end up on our to-do list, and it looks like she's overly eager to speed up the process.
Not likely. You're forgetting one thing. I've got the Absolute to protect me. But you're on your own. Nothing more than a skin suit for that monster inside you. You're gonna be my new pet. A ferocious squiddy. All for myself.
You test the weight of the chains, looking for weak points.
Alright, now this here is a very important decision point in this entire affair. as the game now presents us with two options to get out of our chains. However, against all intuition, we will pick option 3 and preserve our strength. And no, we are not doing this just to switch over to our other party members, who we could of course use to try and break Sylvia out at any point during all of this.
Open your papers, freak. It's time. You should be sprouting tentacles by now. But you're still the same kind of ugly you always was. Disappointing not to have my own squiddy. But your giblets will make for a tasty supper.
Sorry. I may have left that a little late. No lasting damage, I hope?
Right, an unexpected savior just took one more name off of our kill list, and she's a complete unknown, so it's perhaps best if we find out who we're dealing with.
Korilla Heartflame. At your service. You made quite an impression on my master. He sends his regards.
And the mention of a master then of course makes the question of who that might be an absolute necessity.
The Honorable Raphael. He's terribly excited about you and your At this point, you're more interesting alive than dead. So here I am, your savior in times of need. Be a little more careful. That skin's valuable, and we won't always be watching.
Right, so there we are, with Guts dead on the floor in front of us, and while we did miss out on the XP for killing her, it allowed us to meet Raphael's servant Korilla, who's only going to show up if you let the encounter play out this way. Now, Priestess Gut, of course, carries a decent bit of loot on her body, beginning with a rancid note in which she mentions the druid Halsin by name, who also apparently noticed that Gut was infected with a mind flayer parasite, and who is confirmed to be imprisoned down in the walk pens. In addition, Gut also carries two items that are more useful to characters who have received the Absolute's brand, although neither the warboard nor the talisman are anything game-changing. Finally, it is also confirmed to us here that Gut was infected by the mind flayer parasite, which now triggers an interesting scene.
This one is a true soul parasite. It can enhance you. You can absorb its potential. Open your mind to it. You already know how.
Right, so we already briefly touched upon this at the end of the last episode after the Dream Guardian's visit. Before we make a decision though, let's prompt him for a bit more convincing.
Don't worry. You won't come to harm. I'll protect you.
Okay, now this is once again one of those moments where role-playing and true completion might clash with each other. After all, the only reason we are inside the goblin camp in the first place is to find Halsin in order to cure us of the mind flayer parasite. However, the powers that these tadpoles can give us are not to be ignored, I think, and mechanically it makes the most sense to give these powers to the one and only character who will be in the party at all times. Yes, you can in theory also give them to other party members. From a role-playing perspective, I think getting herself captured by Gut and relying on somebody else to break her out might be a defining moment for Sylvia, who perhaps now vows to herself to never get caught powerless again. In any case, it would not be a completionist playthrough if we did not get to experience this gameplay mechanic, so let's have another tadpole wiggle its way inside of Sylvia's brain and see what happens.
Your mind swells as it subsumes everything the tadpole has to offer. Everything it was and everything it was destined to be. Pure potential. Pure power.
Good. You have grown your power and improved your chances of survival.
Right, and that we have indeed. In the top right corner you can see it. We have now unlocked illithid powers, and because the tadpole we just obtained from Gut is not the first one we have obtained in our travels, we can now consume up to 5 of them to unlock various new and useful abilities. As always, I will not go into a full deep dive and explain all of them in detail here. Instead, let's just focus on the ones that we're starting off with, beginning with Favorable Beginnings. This adds an extra use of our proficiency bonus to the first attack roll or ability check made against a creature, which, as you can imagine, can be very handy both in combat and in dialogue. You can also see here that unlocking one of the 5 inner powers also unlocks 2 corresponding powers in the outer circle. However, we are not interested in those for the moment and instead will continue with Concentrated Blast, which deals 3d6 psychic damage at the cost of ending a concentration spell. And conveniently, Cloud of Daggers is one such concentration spell that Sylvia uses quite regularly. Once again, this also unlocks 2 new powers, and this time we are going to pick one of them in Cull the Weak, which can become insanely powerful later in the game, as it instantly kills any target that Sylvia brings down to fewer hit points than her number of evolved illithid powers. So in this case, if a target drops below 5 HP, it's dead, and not only that, its death will also deal an extra d4 psychic damage to all nearby enemies. And considering that we'll be able to find much more than just 5 tadpoles, you can see how this can quickly get out of hand. Now we have 2 tadpoles left, and up next we're going to grab Transfuse Health, allowing us to transfer health from Sylvia to another character. That's not really the ability we're after though. Instead, what I really want to unlock is Shield of Thralls, 10 temporary hit points that can be reactivated with each short rest. But that's not all. If an enemy manages to break through the shield, they have to make an intelligence saving throw to not get stunned, and intelligence is one of those attributes that many enemies are not that good at. So this is it for now. Sylvia Hairyfoot now has illithid powers, and will likely pick up a few more as we progress, which is of course not to say that we will no longer accept a cure for her condition, but for now let's embrace it so that Sylvia never gets herself caught in a situation like this again. Now, as we loot the prison cell, I quickly want to show you that you can shoot down the cage here to create a hole in the ground. Unfortunately, you cannot jump down into it, but it could in theory be useful should you engage this entire encounter in a different way. Now heading out of the cell, we have a few crates and books right next to the exit. The most interesting bit of loot though is the scroll of Melv's acid arrow. And moving on, we also find that Guts was not the only one Korilla killed.
Burned from the inside out. Must have been our warlock friend.
Indeed, Guts' ogre bodyguard lies dead on the floor too, which saves us the trouble of having to fight her ourselves.
That's curious.
Picking up a spell scroll and a vial of poison, Sylvia also spots a pouch on the floor, inside a ring and some coins. Up next then we can loot the ogre, but only get a line of dialogue.
Killed without a mark? Who the hell's does she serve?
Well, we already know the answer to that, and I can now also give you the answer to the question of why we removed Misty Step from Wyll's spell list, because inside Guts' chambers here we can pick up an amulet that lets us cast the spell for free once per short rest. Other notable loot includes the potions found inside the cabinet here, a vial of poison can be found on top of it, and right next to it the recipe for the Elixir of Arcane Cultivation. Since this elixir grants an additional spell slot, it can be quite useful, and the ingredients are not too difficult to come by. In the cabinet right next to the bed then we find a Selûnite journal, which speaks of a not entirely foolproof design, where interlocking circles will bring the full moons to match the stars, while casting darkness where it belongs at the bottom. It also mentions sealing a chasm to the Underdark. All of that could perhaps be vital information to know at a later stage. For now though, we can loot the remaining bits of valuables inside the chamber here and then make our exit. Or rather, let us take this small passage here heading east, where we can loot another spell scroll from a skeleton, and that's not all. Heading deeper, Sylvia spots a rocky crevice.
That might be worth a look.
However, we are not going to use it just yet. Instead, we can do some platforming in the southeastern corner of the area. 2 quick jumps get us down towards another skeleton, and from its body we can loot a decent chunk of valuables. For the time being though, that's as far as we'll go. Beyond this doorway here lies an area that we best approach with a full party, so let's return for now and speak with the dead Priestess Gut.
The corpse regards you lifelessly.
Now, we know the answers to quite a few of the questions here already, so let's begin with the valuables, just in case we overlooked anything. Right, doesn't sound like we missed anything, so let's proceed with her role and purpose in the goblin camp.
Absolute priestess.
That much we also know already, but perhaps there's information about the Absolute that we don't already have.
God, everything, everyone.
Right, not overly insightful, so we might as well start digging into her family history.
My mother's swollen gut.
Could be where she got her name from, I suppose. Either way, we have one question left, and again, we know the answers to all three options already, so we can pick freely.
Dead. Infidel.
The spell's power wanes. You can ask no more questions.
And with that, we can now make our exit. There is a ladder here, but it doesn't get us anywhere secret. Just a convenient way to get onto the high ground, should you decide for a more hands-on approach to this encounter. Back inside the Shattered Sanctum, we are now rejoined by Shovel and can also regroup with the rest of our party. The door into this area was locked earlier, but we picked up the key from Gut's body. Also, as you can see, Karlach wishes to speak to us, so let's hear what she has to say.
There you are. Glad you're all right. What happened in there?
And, well, I don't think there's any need to not tell her the full truth. Let us perhaps leave out the consuming of Mind Flayer tadpoles, though.
Really? Who?
And once again, just calling her a warlock does not tell the full story, and Karlach in particular might be interested to learn that she was a servant of Raphael.
Ugh. So now the rat is sending out cockroaches. Joy. Glad you're in one piece, but I doubt this little favor will come without a price. Let's get rid of this tadpole. Cambion might lose interest when we're a little less, well, interesting. There are enough absolutists in this place to fill a reserve trench. One of them must have something interesting to say, right? Let's find out.
And with that, let's get moving. Just to show it off real quick, there is another way to get into this area, bypassing the locked door. Apart from that, though, there isn't anything valuable inside this chamber. What we can notice, though, is an area behind this cracked wall filled with barrels. Barrels containing smoke powder and fire wine, an explosive combination. Off on the side, there is also a heavy chest promising valuable loot, and you can drop down into this area easily if you find a way to get onto the high ground. A few crates will usually do the trick. I will show you an even easier way later though, so for the moment we can speak to the local trader, a fellow halfling named Roa Moonglow.
That the jingle of coin, I hear? You've timed it well, my friend. Already turned quite the profit today, so I'm feeling generous. You recognize the crest she bears, the winged serpent of the Zentarim.
Now, passing this check is quite useful, as we can now identify her as a member of the Zentarim in conversation.
Half right, sharp eyes. A Zen is a normal trader. Just a matter of what's for sale. Weapons and other exotic goods, true enough. But most of all, we offer discretion. No judgment, no right and wrong, just good deals and bad. That a problem for you?
Now, if you want to get a bit more information out of her, I recommend asking about her business inside the Goblin camp now. Sadly, we will have to forgo that option in favor of mentioning the Zentarim outpost in Warkeen's Rest. Believe me though, it will be worth it.
Bit quieter, if you please. This crowd just burned that into the ground, you might recall. But good. That means Zaris and her little operation weren't found. Seems you're a friend of the family. That warrants a discount. A small one.
Alright, and with better prices secured, let's do some trading now. Once again, we are going to sell off plenty of junk items that I have brought back from camp, and in exchange we will first of all grab the Bow of Awareness. A great weapon to actually give to your melee fighters, as it is certainly not the best ranged weapon, but it does give anyone carrying it a +1 bonus to initiative rolls. We are also grabbing the Monster Slayer Glaive, which does not quite work as it is described here, because it is even better, giving a 1d4 bonus to both attack and damage rolls against monstrosity-type enemies, regardless of whether or not the attack is made with this weapon. Finally, we pick up the Hunter's Dagger, a nice offhand weapon for Astarion, I think, forcing a DC 13 Constitution save with each hit, otherwise applying the Ruptured condition, which deals extra damage when the target moves. And there we go. At this point, let us also talk to the 2 guards standing behind the halfling.
Nothing for you in there, mate.
Wouldn't go in there. Lest you fancy blowing your bones all the way to Baldur's Gate.
Right, a fair warning considering what we already know is inside, and the door is locked anyway, so let's keep moving. Heading down the stairs here, we can jump up to a wooden trunk, inside of which some equipment that Astarion might be interested in. Up next, we then head into an eastern direction. A prisoner is getting tortured in the first room we come across. Let's see if we can do something about that.
Poor lad. I could give you peace, you know. But no. You gotta keep silent, don't you? Where do they flee to, you stubborn rat?
Please, stop!
Here to see your friend, have ya? Come and join him if you like.
Say we'll take over. His work is sloppy. He'll kill the prisoner too quickly.
As the symbol glows, power courses through you. Authority.
Now, despite embracing our illithid powers, we are not going to use them here. Instead, before we make any skill check whatsoever, let us comment on the goblin's nice rack.
The man on it's a bit short, though. Don't you think he could be longer? The git snuck in here with his mates, looking for some forgotten thing. Said they ran to some kind of grove. He doesn't want to tell us where it is, but he can't resist forever.
Now, at this point, we probably want to do something about that prisoner. And even though Shadowheart pretty much word for word suggested the performance option here, we'll go with Deception instead. That's the skill we have expertise in, and not only that, we also benefit from favorable beginnings, which, contrary to its description, sadly only applies to Deception and Persuasion checks. Unfortunately though, despite all of those bonuses, we fail to meet the DC of 20, so let's burn 1 point of inspiration to roll again.
We do all the work, and you get to finish him? Bah! Take him! Won't do you any good. He just screams. Should have sent him to Moonrise with the rest, for all the good he's beaten. I want to watch that weird priest next door. Sounded like he was beating something up. Oh yeah, beating it good.
What? The prisoner?
Oh, forget about it.
Right, that's the 2 goblin guards taken care of. Let us now approach the tortured prisoner.
Please, please. Let me out. There's no reason for this.
Now, before we set the poor guy free though, let's try to get some information out of him, starting with the druid Halsin.
Halsin? I don't know. He changed into a bear, but I lost sight of him. I don't know if he's still alive. That's all I know. Please, get me out of here.
Right, so we're looking for a bear, likely in the walk pens, but that bear came here on a mission to find the Night Song, so let's ask about that next.
Somewhere underneath the temple, there's a hidden passage. Brian had instructions, but the goblins got him. They said they'd eat him. Please, these shackles. I don't want to die.
Right, and of course we always planned on freeing the guy, so let's promise to do exactly that.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Now, a simple sleight of hand check is required to pick the lock, no thieves' tools necessary. Astarion would obviously be better for this, but with guidance it is pretty manageable even for Sylvia.
The lock clicks and opens.
Thank you. I better go before they catch us. I should be able to make it to the grove on my own. They need to know they're in danger.
Now, before we let him leave, let's also ask what the goblins wanted with him. In Halsin's case, it is a bit more understandable, but what kind of information does he possess?
The grove. To the east. They wanted to know where we came from. They'll kill everyone. Please, I need to warn them.
And one final chance to ask about the night song, and we'll take it. For now, we've always asked about where it is, but never what it actually does.
I don't know. The boss didn't say. He just said some wizard called Loroakan would reward us if we found it. That's all.
Okay, now the name Loroakan might ring a bell. He was first mentioned back in the Druid Grove, where the tiefling Roland mentioned that Loroakan had taken him on as a student. At this point, though, the conversation is over and Liam makes his escape. Because of Wyll in the party, we immediately regain the inspiration point for freeing him, and we actually also want to follow him along the path he takes to get out, as not only does this have us come across a skeleton that we can loot, but it also finally reveals the purpose of a particular passageway that we came across last time. You may remember this area right here, a long chest sitting behind a trapped pathway right next to the water. For the time being, though, we want to keep going inside the Shattered Sanctum, and with both guards and prisoner now removed from this torturer's room, we now find ourselves with the perfect opportunity to steal some weapons. The jagged spear here is actually magical, forcing its targets to make a charisma saving throw when being hit. If they fail, they will then receive disadvantage on constitution saves. And with that, let's make it into the next room, a bloodied shrine, where we run back into Torturer Spike and his assistant.
I'm watching you. Spike promised that any meat that falls off is mine.
Bet you couldn't make him sing either, could ya? I'd swear he was mute, if I hadn't heard him scream so much.
And there's also 2 rats in the area we can speak to.
Rat's nose twitches impatiently. Her teeth bite air as though it is flesh, but it doesn't sate her hunger.
Hands off! This one's ours!
Now at this point, we want to shift our attention to Abdirak, the main character inhabiting this room, and who is currently seemingly occupied with inflicting pain on himself. He's the one we want to approach for a pretty unique scene, but crucially we want to do so with Wyll. You'll see why in just a few short moments.
You got candles all round ya! Use them!
Oh yes! Everyone howls when they're on fire!
Now, very important, before we engage Abdirak in conversation, we want to read the book over here, which is essentially a manual for people like him, detailing various ways of inflicting pain without going over the body's limits.
There. I feel it.
And we now want to feel it too, so let's have Wyll approach and begin a conversation.
Greetings, child. I've met few aside from goblins here. Ah, are you also here to assist with the prisoner?
Now, succeeding the religion check here does not really add anything to the conversation I found. Dark Urge characters get a few more dialogue options, but again, we'll have to do this with Wyll for very particular reasons, so let's ask the guy to clarify.
I was invited to teach them some of my techniques. I live for pain and its intricacies, you see. But alas, these goblins seem to thrive on the crude and primitive. Pain without purpose is a terrible thing. Wouldn't you agree?
Now, Wyll is perhaps not the kind of man who has a strong opinion on the matter, so let's answer a question with one of our own. After all, it is strange to see the goblins have a human guest not in captivity.
Yes, he's just over there. Between you and I, his claims of mastery over pain are unfounded. Pain should be intimate and loving, not violent and brutish. Alas, he... Forgive me, but that look in your eyes, something terrible has happened to you.
Now, once again, this line bears a bit more weight if spoken to Sylvia as the Dark Urge. In Wyll's case, we can only ask how he knows to keep the conversation going.
Because I see those same eyes when I look in the mirror, dear one. We've all suffered in these dark times. It is little wonder you bear scars of pain and anguish. Please, let me alleviate this pain.
Right, I think it's pretty clear how he would try to alleviate the pain, so the more interesting question at this point is perhaps why he's so keen on doing it.
Well, the Maiden of Pain, Loviatar, teaches us that pain is a most powerful and sacred sensation. And should our pain delight her, should we embrace such a gift, she will grant her most sacred of blessings. If you would permit it, I can show you firsthand.
Go on! I have to see this!
Right, now before we agree, obviously we will, this is where the book from earlier comes back into play, as we can now use it to give ourselves a lovely advantage in what's to come.
My, an eager student indeed. Those are advanced devotions. The mistress would approve. Indicate which instrument calls to you, and let us put it to work.
And this is it. Talking about the book gives us the option to pick a different weapon, and we want to choose the dagger here. The hand axe and the mace he uses by default both deal 1d6 damage, the dagger only 1d4.
A most excellent choice. Both Loviatar and I are interested in how you handle pain, dear one. And should you delight her, you will most assuredly receive her most gracious blessing. Trust me. Simply face the wall, and we can begin.
Now, unfortunately for Wyll, before we follow along with those instructions and face the wall, we are going to make things even more uncomfortable for him and unequip his robes.
Is it, child?
As you can see, this now triggers Ardent Apostle.
Yes, this will do nicely.
Finally then, before Abdirak strikes at Wyll, we want to make sure to cast the Blade Ward cantrip, granting Wyll resistance to the dagger's damage.
Ah! The pain you suffer will cleanse you. Do not fight it.
So, after taking only one single point of damage to Wyll's temporary hit points, we can now choose one of 3 skill checks. The Constitution check we would actually have to fail to get the best outcome. Meanwhile, for Wyll, Intimidation offers the best odds of succeeding. A big part of that is the +4 Ardent Apostle bonus gained from taking off his robes.
You want more? As you wish, dear one.
Don't wear him out entirely, priest. I might have use for him yet.
And so, with another Blade Ward, we prepare for round number 2.
Wonderful! Just wonderful!
And since we already went down the path of intimidation before, we'll have to stick to it. The DC once again remains at 10 though, so except for a natural 1 we cannot fail.
Wonderful. You want more? I'll give it to you.
Not the worst technique, priest. Good wrist movement, lots of enthusiasm.
Shadowheart also seems overly excited by the whole affair. Wyll meanwhile avoids taking any real damage with Blade Ward.
That's it! Welcome the pain. Let it become part of you.
And for the third and final time, let us go with the Defiant Intimidation option. Since we already succeeded on the first two, the DC is only 5 this time.
I hope that's a promise, dear one.
And so he prepares for one last strike, but we are ready to ward it off.
Sweet child, you bore the pain like a true believer. I could feel Loviatar's pleasure with every slice of my dagger. I am proud to have served you this penance.
Now at this point, I have perhaps already shown you 1 or 2 unique things about this interaction. Let me show you one more, as we now enter Abdirak's trade menu. Since we read the book earlier and convinced him to use the dagger instead of the mace, we can now actually purchase that mace. It is named Loviatar's Scourge, and with each hit delivered, it deals 1d6 necrotic damage, not just to the target, but to all creatures in a small radius. And this can, but does not necessarily have to include the wielder. To make up for this small downside, the weapon also grants its wielder resistance to necrotic damage, and there are a few fun interactions with other abilities and damage bonuses that can be had with this weapon, so despite a rather sizable price tag of over 850 silver, we will purchase it, and then we are sticking to our previous tone in the conversation and show ourselves defiant and capable of taking more.
You're starting to sound like the goddess herself, dear one. Loviatar herself found your performance inspiring. She has deemed you worthy of her blessing. And on a personal note, thank you. That was positively divine.
Looks like that's going to bruise.
It's just the same thing, over and over.
Well, whatever you're into.
Grush, I need to see that again.
Not what I expected to see
Ask
today.
him if you can do the penance thing too.
What?
Get in there. We might learn something.
Now at this point, it is of crucial importance to send our newly acquired weapon off to camp. Otherwise, it can happen that Abdirak simply takes it back from your inventory. And no, he will not reimburse you for it.
I think you would enjoy... Yes, this is perfect.
At this point then, he begins to perform the same ritual on Goblin Lookout Grush. Let's sit and watch for a while.
Pain is proof that we live. Revel in it.
Oh, let me try that fancy whip thing after.
Now is not the time to ask that.
Now the two of them do not quite seem to think alike. In that sense, Wyll was definitely the more willing performer.
Cry out. Embrace it.
I'm nodding off here.
That is not what I meant.
On lower difficulties, or if Abdirak uses a different weapon, Grush can actually fall to 0 hit points from this, although of course he won't die. However, as you can see, the entire thing does not go on forever.
Tend to your wounds, and we shall continue.
You what? Just bash it somewhere else.
I don't get it. I thought the bleeding was the point.
That's not... Never mind.
Alright, and with that we have seen everything there is to see in the Bloodied Shrine. Grush remains at low health, which might be useful later. For now though, we make our way to the room next door.
Oi, Bribbo! There's the prisoner.
Ain't a prisoner. He's my pigeon.
Biggest bloody pigeon I ever saw.
Not to mention that we are quite familiar with this pigeon, so let's speak to the one holding it captive.
Don't go bothering my pigeon. He's mine.
And before we engage in a conversation about her plans for the prisoner, let's ask whether or not she's gathered his name.
Peach.
Right, and following this outburst of creativity, I think we want to steer the conversation towards freeing poor Volo.
Keep him safe. Listen to him coo. Till I gets hungry or some such. What's it to ya?
Well, mostly it's of our concern because we have a quest to free Volo, so let's tell her that we'd like to have one of our own.
Then catch one on your own.
As the symbol glows, power courses through you. Authority.
Once again, we could use our illithid persuasion to get what we want here, but we don't need to. The deception check here will work just as well. Thanks to favorable beginnings, we get a bonus of plus 12, more than enough to guarantee success.
Take him for a joke, why don't ya? And don't let the lads snatch him up. No, tell him what they'll do to him. Bring him back when he's all tuckered out. Here's the key. Pigeon's all yours.
Alright, guard removed, key obtained. Let's speak to the man behind bars.
Ah, my friend, we can speak freely. I'm in no hurry to take my turn on that spit out front. Perhaps you'd be so kind as to unlock this cage?
Now, talking to Volo in the Emerald Grove a while ago, we learned that he was planning on coming here, so let's use the Bard option here to show ourselves familiar with his work.
Aha! An individual of some learning, I see. You're quite right.
Volo Temp, get on! Realm-renowned author, and tastemaker at your service.
Well, I will be at your service once I've been freed from this ensconcement. Speaking of which...
And of course, freeing him is what we came here to do, a task easily achieved now.
Bless you, my friend. I'll wait nicely, but please don't tarry.
And having the key, we certainly won't.
Aha! I knew I could count on you, my friend. We mustn't tarry, but I'd hate for our friendship to end here. Please, won't you meet me once we've both slipped the goblin yoke?
Now, contrary to Sylvia and the rest of the party, he is not quite free to walk around in the camp, so I'd be very curious to learn how he plans to slip them.
An invisibility potion, my friend. A bit less refined than your mendacious methods, but by God, it'll do the trick.
Now, that potion might have been useful a bit earlier, but who are we to judge? Instead, let's ask how exactly he ended up a goblin prisoner.
Why, by design, my friend. How better to learn the ways of a people than to live among them? I dare say the experiment has proven most fruitful, too. I'll be happy to share my findings once we've found somewhere safe to parley.
And of course, we do want to speak to him again, if only to collect a reward for our help. Therefore, we'll tell him to meet us back at our campsite.
Smashing! Soon, my friend. Soon we can share a flagon of something liquid and a tale of daring do. I'll slip away when the coast is clear. See you soon, my friend. I simply can't wait to pick your brain!
And there he goes, turning invisible and running off, leaving us alone in the room. A room that we can now quickly loot. Admittedly, there's not much here. Some of the burlap sacks contain some vaguely useful items though, and there's also a few vegetables spread onto the floor in front of the cage. Finally, there is a letter on the bench here in which Volo writes to Elminster, detailing his exploits in the goblin camp, which he is seemingly planning to turn into yet another book of his. In this letter, he's asking Elminster to spread the word about the upcoming release in Baldur's Gate, and we best pocket the letter for ourselves just to remove all traces. And with that, we have now reached the 1 hour mark in this video, and as much as I would like to show you some combats, and it is actually coming up next, it will also be accompanied by some slightly lengthier dialogue. I think it's best we save that for the next episode. For today, we have made some major choices, unlocked another achievement, freed some prisoners, and killed one of the goblins' most important leaders, or at least we watched someone else do the dirty work for us. I hope you enjoyed it all. If you did, I would be very happy if you could leave a thumbs up. And if you like what I'm doing and want to support me and my channel further, then you can of course go ahead and subscribe to stay up to date, grab some merch over on shop.petecomplete.com, or become a channel member or Patreon supporter. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.